Hey y'all, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming to you with a weekly reading vlog, but it's a beach reading vlog. As you can see, I'm not in my normal location and I look like I have been in a wind tunnel, which is always a clue that I'm possibly at the beach. The beach agrees with a lot of people physically, not really me, because I look like the risen dead. First of all, I'm so pale, but second of all, my hair, it doesn't like this. We just got here. I'm having to have a Dr. Pepper because it's kind of been a stressful travel day. The big stress was that we couldn't find someone's debit card, because right when we got here, we went to the Island bookstore, which I think I took a little bit of footage of, and I intended to do like bookshop with me at the beach, but I don't know if I'll go to any other bookshops, but this is my favorite bookshop on the island. I am in Pine Knoll Shores, or Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. This is also where I went last year, so it may seem kind of familiar, but we're gonna try to do some different things this year than what we did last year. So one of the main goals is to go to Shackleford Banks, which is a really beautiful kind of wildlife reserve. Nobody lives on this island, but apparently the shelling is absolutely incredible, and you can get these full whelk shells. I always thought they were conchs, but I've learned that conchs don't live up this far north. They really like the Caribbean and warm water, and so these are whelks. So the big, beautiful, you know, kind of spiral topped shells. I've seen a lot of people have those, and there are of course gorgeous clam shells and everything like that apparently on the island. But more exciting than the shelling, and I know, how could anything be more exciting than that? I love shells and I love shelling, but on the island are some of North Carolina's wild horses. And there are wild horses up and down the coast of North Carolina in the Outer Banks along a lot of these islands that are uninhabited. In the 1500s and 1600s, the Spanish shipwrecked here a lot along North Carolina's coast. North Carolina's coast is not rocky. It just has maybe a lot of sandbars is possibly the best way to describe it, but it's just always been a place where ships could wreck. North Carolina is often called like the graveyard of the Atlantic because there are so many shipwrecks off our coast. And I'm definitely sure we will go to Beaufort, which is maybe 10 minutes from here. We went there last year. Blackbeard used to stay in Beaufort, and immediately off the coast of Beaufort, I think maybe a mile away, is where Queen Anne's Revenge, which was his ship, is where she sank. So they found her wreck, I believe, in my own lifetime. But anyways, so the Spanish would often shipwreck on these little islands, and the horses would often run off of the shipwrecks, and over the centuries they have taken over these islands. And the shrubbage actually means that they are not really the size of normal horses. They are ponies, because they've had to adapt to living on a small island with like beach shrubbery and grasses, which don't really give them the nutrients they need to be very big, large horses. But they were at one time Mustangs, I think, and I have never seen them. I am so excited. I want to see them so bad, and I am really looking forward to it. I just don't know if I can do it because it's being outside under the beating down sun. And I've learned my lesson. I am allergic to the sun. You've heard people say that. I really am. And I kind of break out in hives. And so it's even a big event for me now to go and sit out on the beach, unfortunately, when I really love that. And I love just being at the beach and being on the water. But see, I already think I have sun because we just went out to eat. I got my fill of shrimp. I'm happy. We sat outside. It was literally under an awning though, but I still think, I don't know. I just don't know. So I'm just skeptical of whether or not I can do that, but I have like an outfit that I'm gonna wear on the beach that covers me almost head to toe. I will let y'all see it. It's very Diane Keaton in my opinion, but I will show you what I got at the bookstore because we were in line at the bookstore, and that was when we realized someone didn't have their debit card. We went and hunted around, and then finally found it. Thank goodness we found it. We were really spiraling there for a minute. But I picked up in the bookstore a couple of classics because I think they have a really amazing classics section at this bookstore. And I picked up Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare because I don't have a copy of this. And this is a Wordsworth classic, so it's not gonna have very many notes, but actually, you know what? I think it has plenty of good notes. I really was on the hunt for Plutarch. I want a new edition of Plutarch. I want to read Plutarch during Ancients-a-thon. Even though I didn't officially put it on my TBR, I really feel the impulse to reread him. I felt like Julius Caesar would at least semi-scratch that itch for me, and I've never read it. I feel sure I would love it. I think this will probably be my favorite, maybe my new favorite of Shakespeare's. I feel like I would really like Julius Caesar. But I also picked up this abridged version of The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbon. And I know I've promised myself that I would get the 3-volume set from Penguin, and I've said that for a long time, that I would just save up and get that set. But you know, this was half the price of one of those volumes, and I think this will give me a good taste of his writing, and it will allow me to decide whether or not I ever would want to embark and read literally everything, the whole thing. But what's interesting is that there are notes to each chapter at the end of each chapter. I love that. I really, really love that you don't have to flip all the way to the back of the book for end notes. So I'm excited about that. If I run out of books to read that I brought with me, you know what we can do. We can always turn to Edward Gibbon. I know I posted a video just kind of talking about the books that I was bringing with me to the beach, and I mentioned a couple that I thought I would start first. I didn't do that. I started Caraval by Stephanie Garber first, and I'm almost 100 pages in. No, I'm only 50 pages in, but I'm really enjoying this. I have read this before. I know that I have. I thought at one time that maybe I didn't, but the more that I read of this, the more I remember it, and I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not really sure why, if I read this earlier, why I didn't continue on with the series. So I am going to continue on reading this tonight. I'm gonna go sit out on the balcony and enjoy this for a little while, and then I will come back in and just have a nice relaxing evening because it was a stressful travel day. And I apologize. I realize now that the air conditioning has been on the entire time I've been talking. Sorry about that. But that's all for me right now. I will check in with you probably tomorrow. I am back in the same area. Last year, I got to do a balcony update because I remembered my headphones, and I didn't this year. But I did finish a book. I finished Caraval. I rated it 4 stars. When I looked on Goodreads, I had in fact read it. So I knew that to be true, and I had originally rated it 4 stars. I think it came out 5 years ago. That was the thing that blew my mind, was that I read it for the first time 5 years ago. I'm gonna go on and move into Legendary. I debated whether or not I wanted to read something else in between the series, but I feel like I do that all the time, and that's a good way for me to never finish a series. So I think I'm gonna try to read it straight through, which is unusual for me, and it's not something that I typically do, but I think I'm gonna try to do it this time. I didn't really sit on the beach today. This is day 1, but they normally put out umbrellas for us, and I really, I can't sit out there unless I've got an umbrella. But it's super, super windy today, so there were no umbrellas anywhere, because that could be very, very dangerous. And so spent the majority of the day sitting on the balcony looking at the sea, but I did take a nice long walk. It's beautiful. The weather is beautiful. Unfortunately, as you might can hear from my voice, I'm sick, which is really, really unfortunate, because you go on vacation, what, 1 week out of the year, and that's the week you get sick. So I'm powering through. So those are my reading plans. I'm planning on getting in bed and reading early tonight. I'm planning on just really enjoying it. And so this evening I've done a little bit of crafting, which has been very, very nice. Hopefully this is an indication of what the entire week will be. Hopefully it'll just be really beautiful weather, and I will show you some more scenes of the sea. Sorry that there is no change in location, but today it is Wednesday. I don't know if I've even given a day the other days, but I think it's been a day or 2 since I updated you, and I have big news. I have finished the Caraval trilogy. I'm super depressed about it because it was such an enjoyable ride. Like, I really loved Once Upon a Broken Heart, so I felt sure I would love this, but I didn't know that I was going to love it as much as I did. There's something about the way she writes romance, and it's just really, really magical, which feels cheesy to say, but there's something about this world that's very magical, and I just want to live in it forever. I love her writing. I love the writing style. I love the characters. And particularly, I have to say, I really love the romance. And I've always said I'm not really a romance reader. Maybe I am, though. Maybe I am a romance reader if the leading man was once cursed to be in a deck of cards. You know, maybe so, maybe so. Because the second half of this series is about kind of what's happening in Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is about these immortal beings called the Fates who were trapped in a deck of cards, essentially like tarot cards. And that is so genuinely fascinating to me. But the first book of this trilogy, Caraval, is essentially about a carnival and a game. And basically the book is kind of solving a mystery and playing a game. And tonally and thematically, that first book, Caraval, bears very little resemblance to the other 2 books in the trilogy. And I just think it's strange that this morphed into a trilogy at all. It seems like I remember when it was published that I think it was going to be a duology, and then it morphed into a trilogy. And I just find it very interesting. I don't necessarily feel as though it should have been a trilogy. The second book in the series I rated 5 stars. Caraval I gave 4. Finale I gave 4. Finale didn't need to be this long. In truth, it could have been a very long duology, like both of the books could have been maybe 500 pages, and that really would have given us time in the world and save everything else from Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I don't care. I just love this series. I love her writing. I think Stephanie Garber is now my current favorite YA author. I am obsessed, just obsessed with this world, and I want to just take root in it and live there forever. I love it so much. I just can't get over it. I can't get over how much this series was everything I wanted it to be. When I predicted something to happen and it happened, I felt wonderful about it. I just felt like this book gave me everything that I wanted. This series gave me everything that I wanted, which is how Once Upon a Broken Heart felt to me. So I feel like in some ways maybe Stephanie Garber and I just get along, and she understands kind of the type of thing that I'm really interested in. Sorry, the air conditioner always seems to kick on as soon as I sit down to do this. But this morning, did run by my favorite place on earth, which is the Beaufort Olive Oil Company. Got Tuscan herb olive oil, which is like crack. I've tried to make pasta without it since I tried it last year, and it's just not the same. It is not the same. But this time I decided to try the black truffle olive oil. I bet it's gonna be good, because when I went to Italy the last time 3 years ago, I tried truffle pasta, and I went in November and I had some kind of truffle that was really in season only for 2 to 3 weeks out of the year. And I feel like that was the black truffle, because there is a truffle that you can get more regularly, but I'm not sure now whether or not that was the white or the black truffle. But I tried both the white and the black truffle oil this morning, and I definitely preferred the black truffle oil. So I'm gonna try that and I'll let y'all know how that goes. I also went by DG's, which is just a little bookstore, but it's also just like a beach store. Just one of those stores, boutiques like that you always see down at the beach. And they had a pretty great selection of books, and I feel like they must watch Jen from insert literary pun here, because half the books on the shelf were books that were on her best of 2020, best of 2021 list. So I picked up 2, and they were both books that Jen has recommended. And so one of those is Prairie Fires, The American Dreams of Laura Ingalls Wilder by Caroline Fraser. I never read the Little House on the Prairie books, but I have heard so much about this. This is a nonfiction about Laura Ingalls Wilder's life. And I believe she lived a really incredibly interesting life that she then used as the basis for the books. And I have no kind of childhood attachment to those stories. I know a lot of people do. And so a lot of the controversial conversations around them, people feel torn on because they enjoyed them so much as children, but I never had any exposure to them. In fact, I couldn't tell you the first thing about the Little House on the Prairie series. So I think this is going to be very, very interesting, as I love to hear about the Old West. So I'm excited about this one. And I also picked up Bloodlands, Europe Between Hitler and Stalin. And this is definitely a big Jen recommendation. And I've seen her talk about this ad nauseum, and so it's been on my list for a long time. And this is about World War II. It's not very light beach reading, but you never know. I might pick this up. Now that I'm through with Caraval, I'm very depressed. So I'm gonna see what else I might want to pick up tonight. It might be one of these, but I think more likely it's going to be Book of Night by Holly Black, because I have been seeing so much controversy about that on Twitter today. I don't know what's going on. I don't have the first thread of it, but I've been seeing a lot of controversy, and I think people are very, very torn on that one. So I really want to see where I'm gonna fall. I thought I would take y'all along with me as I go for a walk. It's a very windy day. They decided not to put out the umbrellas. Can't blame them now that I'm down here. I don't even know that y'all can hear me over the surf and the wind, but there's a lot of spray. It's very foamy. So not a good day to have out umbrellas. So I thought I would take you along with me while I go on my walk. Let's see if we can find some shells, maybe. Let's make sure my hat doesn't blow away. So let's see what we can find. finding any shells, and really the surf was just very, very high. So since there are no umbrellas and there are no chairs out, we're kind of sitting on the balcony today, and today is the last day, sad to say, and we didn't go to Shackleford Banks like we wanted to, but I'm wrestling with a really bad cold, and so wasn't my idea of a fun time. So this has probably worked out for the best. I did start Book of Night last night by Holly Black, and I DNF'd it 25 pages in, maybe it was 50 pages in. And I don't know that it's a permanent DNF, but I just don't have the mental capacity to try to understand what was going on in that book right now, because so much was going on, and it's so weird for a standalone book, in my opinion, for it to be a standalone, that there was as much world building involved in it as there was even at like page 50 or 25. I feel like it was 50 now. Half of the paragraphs were building the world. Well, the book is only around 300 pages. We don't need all of this world building. Like, at this point in a 300 page book, your emphasis should be on the plot and the characters, to me, and not on the world, unless this is building into a series. But it's my understanding that this is a standalone book, and so I just genuinely don't understand it. I don't understand the thought process there at all. So I decided to put that down. So I started The Wolf and the Woodsman, and so far I'm enjoying that. I can see why it's compared to Uprooted. I can see why it is compared to Uprooted. But hopefully I will like it a whole lot more than I liked Uprooted or Spinning Silver. I just don't like Naomi Novik's writing. But I'm about 100 pages into that, and I intend to read some more this afternoon. Well, it is the last morning. I'm getting ready to go, but I wanted to show you my outfit today because I think it's really cute. And so we're hopefully going to go by Newbern if we can find a place to park. That's only about an hour from here. If not, then maybe we'll just make a trip and go to Newbern all on its own, because I think there's quite a bit to see there, and I've never been. So I just wanted to show you my cute outfit today, this poncho, which feels very, very, very beachy, and just feels like I'm in a nice, comfortable, like, blanket. So we made it to Tryon Palace. It is a balmy 88 degrees. It's only 11:30. And it's going to be 95 today, so we'll see how that goes. But we have a tour here in 30 minutes, so hopefully we can go into the house, tour about. Then we're going to go to the birthplace of Pepsi Cola. Pepsi was made here, thank goodness, and we'll get a refreshing little sugary drink to pick us back up after being in the heat. And then it will be, sadly, on the way home. I know nothing about this. I know this was big. Newbern is big in Outlander, and in fact you can take Outlander tours here, so I'm really curious about that. I've not watched or read Outlander, so I'm kind of curious about it. I actually have read the first book. Sorry, I lied, but I DNF'd it because I hated it so much. But I feel like I would like it better in television. So I will show you around some more. We're wandering the gardens right now, and it's really lovely. good times are over and we're back from vacation. It's actually a few days later as I've still been recovering from my cold. Had a massive headache on Friday when we left New Bern. But I did want to kind of wrap up all of the reading updates. One thing I want to say about New Bern, I feel like I got a lot of really beautiful footage there, and it's a really pretty place. Tryon Palace is not the original. It is a reconstruction that was built in the 50s. I was pretty disappointed in that. I'm not really interested in anything that is a reconstruction. Like, that's just the, I think, maybe the pretentious historian in me is I'm just not interested in reconstructions. And so they did have a couple of parts that were original, but I'm still left scratching my head as to what Jamie and Claire were doing. I guess they had nothing to do with Tryon Palace, and had I taken one of those tours of the entire city, maybe they would have clued me in on that, but I don't know. I'm still left kind of scratching my head, so I need to watch Outlander, I guess, and I'll have some of those questions answered. But that was a really lovely day, though it was super, super hot. But I did want to say, I finished my last day at the beach, and I can't believe I didn't give an update about this, but I did finish The Wolf and the Woodsman, and I rated this 3 stars. Looking back in terms of my own personal enjoyment of it, I kind of think it deserved 2. This book is incredibly bizarre. It is not a retelling of anything to my understanding, and I think if it was, I might have enjoyed it more, but there was just something very hollow about this, and it's interesting to say that, and I think maybe at my heart, I'm just not a person who really enjoys first-person narratives, particularly in modern books, because weirdly enough, though this book was written in first person, I felt like I was at a complete and total distance from the characters, which makes 0 sense when you think about it. It just makes very, very little sense, but I felt no connection at all to the main character, though we spent the book in her head. And in many ways, this reminded me of a book that in theory I also really liked, but in execution I hated. And that is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. The characters here fall into those archetypes so well, which in so many ways also fall into the archetypes of Nina and Matthias from Six of Crows. And I feel like Nina and Matthias are the blueprint, and I don't know whether I feel like it's done very well elsewhere, kind of like a witch hunter romance, which in a way this kind of was. This was dealing with religious imagery though, and I thought that was at least partially interesting, but I just didn't feel like this went far enough in that direction for me. But it was so bizarre in other ways that I just was left scratching my head. This was a weird book, and I think it's going to work well for certain readers. And I feel like, in theory, it should have worked well for me. I don't know if I was just in kind of a black hole after finishing the Caraval trilogy, but that probably is true. But I rated this 3 stars, and I don't know. I don't want to say this is a permanent DNF, because I did get it from Book of the Month. And I do want to be part of the conversation people are having about Book of Night. But right now, I am just not feeling this, and I feel like it needs to be put down, and possibly it needs to be put down permanently. This is another weird one, and this is bizarre in so many ways, similar to The Wolf and the Woodsman, but where The Wolf and the Woodsman feels purposeful, and it feels like that's really going in with the story it's trying to tell. This book is weird in a way that I don't think makes any sense. And I think some of it is that Holly Black is a very big author, and perhaps she was allowed a little bit more freedom with this, and maybe she should have been edited in different ways. It's just weird. This is such a short book, but it felt like it was trying to pack in so much information, even in that first 50 pages that I read, that I just was feeling very, very torn on it, and I didn't really feel like the world building was that interesting to me. It would be interesting to me were this book set in a fantasy world, but this book is set in our world, and that makes it feel so extremely weird to me. And I think maybe at heart, I'm also not really an urban fantasy person. I'm not somebody who really likes stuff like this set in our real world where people, like average people, are completely aware of magic. That's what's weird to me, and that's what made this feel strange. And so she tried to world build a fantasy world within our world. So much happened in that first 50 pages that I feel like I have a lot of opinions. So I don't want to say this is a permanent DNF. I do want to come back to this, but right now I'm just gonna put it down. But that was my little beach reading vlog. Sadly, we didn't get to do very much. We didn't even get to spend very much time on the beach because of the wind. And of course, I wrestled through a cold the whole week. But it was still a really lovely vacation, and I am so glad that I got to go. So that is going to be all for me today. I hope you're all having a great week. Happy reading. Goodbye.